Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. My name is Abdul Wahab and I am PhD scholar at the Department of Archaeology, University of Peshawar. In the lecture series by Dr. Naeem Kazi, I'm here with a presentation which is actually part of my MPhil dissertation completed in 2020 under the supervision of Professor Dr. Gul Rahim Khan. Uh, the title of this dissertation was the Kushano Sassanian CoinHoard in the SSAQMuseum of Archaeology and Ethnology, University of Peshawar, an analytical study. SSAQ means Sir Sahib Zada Abdul Qayyum Museum. What will you learn from this presentation? So you will be able to know about the Kushano Sassanian, uh, their history, the expansion of their kingdom, and the chronology of their rulers and the coinage of Kushano Sassanians. Here is a short introduction to the Kushano Sassanian. The Kushano Sassanian ruled Afghanistan, Gandhara, and some states of Central Asia. Gandhara is part of present-day Pakistan, particularly KP province of Pakistan. They came to power at the demise of the Great Kushans during first half of 3rd century CE. They are known with the different names such as Situ Sasanian, Indo Sasanian, and Koshan Shahs. They call themselves Koshan Shahs as they ruled the territories which were previously ruled by the Koshans. Uh, Actually, the Kushano Sassanian kingdom was a semi-autonomous kingdom which will be discussed later, and their masters were Sassanian. So one has to touch the history of Sassanian before the Kushano Sassanian. So Ardashir was a vassal king of Faras, and he revolted against his master Ardawan V, the Parthian king. He fought three battles with him and finally got independence around 224 CE. This victory of Ardashir is depicted in a stone carving known as at Nakshe Rostam. This scene depicts Ardashir riding on a horse and celebrating his victory bestowed upon him by god Ahura Mazda, and it is also evident by other sources like the Chronicle of Arbela and the Armenian sources. Uh, Ardashir, after conquering Persia from the Parthian, he made campaigns toward east and west, but the present presentation is about the Kushano-Sasanian kingdom, which lies to the east of Persia. So we will confine ourselves to the present presentation. And in this regard, the eastern part of Persia, which was actually the western part of Kushan, was ruled by the Kanishka II of the Kushan Empire. Kanishka II was defeated by Ardashir, and thus Bactria was detached from the Kushan Empire. Shapur first was the son and co-regent of Ardashir. As a co-regent, his rule is confirmed by a unique silver drum housed in the British Museum. This kind inscribed the complete title of Ardashir given to Shapur, but he has not given the crown yet. However, according to Christopher, Shapur first was the sole ruler by 242 CE, and He wanted to expand his authority further east, and thus he conquered Kabul Valley and the Peshawar Valley. Uh, Gandhara, which is currently presently known as Peshawar Plain, or which is a part of KP province, and the presentation is mainly focused on Gandharan kinds and history of the Kushano Sassanian. So I would like to have some words about Gandhara, the meaning of Gandhara. Gandhara is previously described by Mescal as uh, the land of fragrance. But according to Professor Abdur Rahman, former chairman, Department of Archaeology, University of Peshawar, uh, Gandhara can also be written as Kandhara. The second word "hara" means without any doubt land or region. The first word is the combination of two words, that is Gandh means water and Dha means sea. So literally Gandhara or Kandhara means lake, land. Okay, so it is clear that Bactria, Kabul Valley, and Gandhara were under the Sasanian control at the times of Shapur's reign. So Bactria, along with the newly conquered areas of Kabul and Gandhara, were considered as a semi-autonomous kingdom and was called as Koshan Sheher. Koshan Sheher means the province of Koshan, as it was actually ruled by Kushan before the Sassanians. So the ruler of this newly semi-autonomous kingdom called themselves as Kushan Shahs and their kinds, but the scholar now call themselves as the kingdom of Kushano Sassanian or the Kushano Sassanian kingdom. The first ruler of this kingdom was Ardashir first, who ruled over Bactria and probably Kabul Valley. Ardashir was followed by another king, Feroz I. Feroz I was the first ruler who ruled not only Bactria and Kabul Valley, but he also ruled Gandhara. In Gandhara, he issued a heavyweight copper coins. Uh, the identification of Perot's first on the coins is made through his distinct mural crown composed of a low flat base. Uh, it was a common tradition in Sassanian and Koshano Sassanian. When new ruler would come, he would design a separate crown for himself. So the better way to differentiate between the rulers and to identify the rulers is a unique feature of the Kushano Sassanian and Sassanian is their crowns. We can identify the rulers on the base of crowns and also on the basis of legend. So Perot's first crown is composed of mural crown uh, with a low flat base, and the legend on his coins is Perozo in cursive Greek. Perot's first was followed by Hermes first. Hermes first was a strong ruler of this dynasty, and he is titled as a great king of the Kushan. But sometimes he is inscribed as Uzurgo Kushano Shahano Shah, great Kushan king of kings. And this title announced him a great king, a king of great rank, not less than the royal Sassanian emperor. And this period of Kushano-Sasanian kingdom mean the reign of Hermes I marked the highest degree of independence from the Sasanian. and the maximum expansion of the boundaries of a kingdom. Uh, as I mentioned earlier, that this legend inscribed him a king of great rank, not dependent on others, not a vassal king of Sassanian. So it is clear that he, if not for the whole period of his reign, at least for a short period of his reign, has declared himself as a independent ruler and not a vassal of the Sassanians. Uh, however, Hermes first appointed satraps or governors to rule Gandhara. Kabul Valley and Bactria was directly ruled by him, but here in Gandhara, he appointed satraps. Uh, the kinds of these satraps display uh, bust of Hermes and the names of two satraps, that is Kubad and Mezi. These were the governors of Hermes first for Gandhara. Uh, Hermes first was followed by Hermes the second, and he also retained the satrap Mizi. The rule of Hermes first as Kushan Shah was short and he ruled about only 3 years. Therefore, his kinds are also scarce. So, after this, the new king of this kingdom was Perose II. Pharaoh II also retained the satrap Mizi, and his coins display bust of king wearing a crown with a crescent or bull's horns. His coins describe him as great king and not great king of kings, which shows the reduction of authority. And yes, it is clear that when after the rule of Peroz, the Sasanian directly ruled Gandhara, and at that time the Sasanian king was Shapur II. So Shapur, for the first few years, appointed a satrap or here named as Kubad, and these kinds display bust of king wearing a crown composed of palm trees inscribed with the name of Satrap Kubad. But later, uh, he directly ruled this area and issued the coins with his own name, and these coins describe himself as a Shahburu. Uh, however, the Kushano Sassanian kings Varaharan I and Varaharan II were still ruling Bactria and Kabul Valley. Around 360 CE, Hephthalites invaded Bactria, and thus the Kushano Sassanian rule was confined to the Kabul Valley. The later coins issued in the name of Burhan II, who was king of the Kushano Sassanian, are attributed to Peroz III and Kedara. It means these coins were issued by Heptalite rulers in the name of Varaharan II. At the end of the 4th century CE, the Kushano Sassanian rule came to an end, though the Sassanians were still ruling this principality, I mean Kabul Valley. uh, Coinage of the Kushano Sassanians. So, the coins of Kushano Sassanian followed the pattern of two dynasties, that is, Kushans and Sassanians. In some cases, they followed Kushans, while in other they followed the coins pattern of Sassanian, and sometimes they followed the pattern of both these dynasties. So the first coins of Kushano Sassanians, the gold coins of Kushano Sassanians were issued on the patron of Kushans and particularly on the patron of Vasudeva first. These coins display standing king on the upwards and god, that is Vishu, and his vehicle bull on the reverse. Actually, the standing king offering at an altar was introduced by Vima Cadphises and was followed by other successors except Havishka. Uh, After this, Kanishka first made many changes in the Kushan coinage. Uh, Before this, the coins of Kushan were inscribed with two I mean, they were bilinguals inscribing two scripts, that is Kharoshti and Greek. But uh, Kanishka first replaced both with the Bactrian legends. However, the alphabets, they were still inscribed in Greek alphabets, but the language was Bactrian and not Kharoshti and Greek. He also inscribed the name of deity along the portrait. Before this, the god and goddesses were depicted on the coins, but their name were never inscribed with them. So Kanishka first started this tradition that the name of deity was also written with them. Uh, well, he also increased the number of deities. And when Avishka came, so he retained the same scheme of deities, and also later he increased the number of deities. Uh, During the reign of Vasudeva, uh, Vishu was the sole deity, and after this, Kanishka also retained Vishu, but he introduced another Iranian deity, that is Ardakshu. So Ardakshu type was retained in the east by the Guptas, and the Kushano Sassanian continued to issue their coins with the Vishu and Bull type. Uh, The silver coins of Kushano Sassanians were on the patron of Sassanian, and the patron was a bust of King to right, wearing crown on the obverse and a fire altar supported by lion legs on the reverse. Uh, However, the copper coins followed both the pattern of both these dynasties. There are two different groups of copper coins of Kushano Sassanians. So the first group, that is small copper coins, were issued from Bactria, and the design was that of gold coins. These coins portray bust of king, standing king on the boards, and Vishu with or without bull on the reverse. The Gandharan copper issued on the pattern of both Kushan and Sassanians. The design was that of the Sassanian, but the weight was that of the Kushan, which is 4 gram. Some of the coins are lighter, but the standard was 4 grams. So the Gandharan coins portray a bust of King to right in an imperial Sassanian character. Sometime the king is bearded, sometime beardless, sometime he has mustache, and sometime without mustache. But most often, he wears a pendant, and the reverse of these kinds monotonously portrays a Zoroastrian fire altar, most often supported by lion legs. In some cases, the altar is topped by a male bust of deity, and in others, it is topped by flames, and some rare kind, with one is published by Jokrib in 1985 or 1981, uh, inscribe a Greek legend on the reverse. And one such coin is also present in the present hall, which have inscription on the reverse. So thank you all for watching.